Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like this season, is only fun for a little bit. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
What up, Nate H?
If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 848-48-BIRDS. Hambone, here we are. We're doing a bit of an early record, a morning record for the show. You and I both notoriously morning people. How you doing this morning?
I love the sun. I love waking up.
Yeah.
I love the coffee.
The morning brown.
Oh, I love some hot morning brown. I've actually got some cold morning brown.
I think we're both
today.
I think we're both gold brown people.
Yep. That's how I would categorize myself.
Yeah.
Yep. Nothing weird with
Yeah,
that.
definitely sounds good and is descriptive of what we're talking about.
100%.
We're recording before the Cardinals even start their early game here on Wednesday, so we don't even know how this game's going.
We're the early birds grabbing that worm today. Talking about birds.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. I started thinking about, do you remember that book, How to Eat Fried Worms?
Nope.
I don't know why, but it's like permanently in my brain from like, I don't know, elementary school. Would you eat a worm, Hambone, if you fried it up and dipped it in some like barbecue sauce or something?
Barbecue sauce. I think I'd pretty much eat anything if it was prepared well. Yeah. I mean, that list is long. So yeah, sure, I'd eat a worm.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like a side quest of this whole show has us been just talking about the weird shit you've eaten. So,
oh, okay.
Well, we did the Rocky Mountain oysters and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I guess there's some evidence to support that claim. All right. Yep. All right. I apologize for responding that way.
Were you ever a wake and bake kind of guy? You know what I'm saying?
What do you mean?
You know what I'm saying? Wake and bake, Colorado.
No, I mean I'm just so not a morning guy. I need everything. I need all of the wind behind my sails to really get the day going.
Yeah.
Like talking to you right now, this is Herculean effort. This is not.
It's hard. Hard at peak times. When we're both, well rested and at a normal record time. So I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a wake and bake guy, Nate?
No. Unless we're talking cookies.
Ooh. I mean, breakfast food is basically like cookies and breakfast food. They align. I'm pro cookies for breakfast.
It is. Yeah. I mean, this isn't a new take or anything, but the line between breakfast items and dessert is very, very thin. I go and get the girls donuts or something for breakfast, and you're like, we're just basically eating cake for breakfast.
There's a new bagel place that we've been wearing out, and they have a French toast cream cheese, and that is delicious.
A French toast cream cheese. So are you saying the cream cheese is French toast flavored with like a maple syrup?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that like a maple cream cheese basically?
Yeah, but they call it French toast cream cheese, Nate.
Evocative. I'm not a big French toast guy. I am a bagel guy though.
What is wrong with you?
It's too goopy.
Oh my god, you have not had good French toast. Then you are that
might be
I think the worst take you've ever had.
That might be the case, and I know
French toast is S tier dessert. Breakfast? What and dessert? It's just perfect.
Give me a biscuits and gravy. You know what I mean?
I love a B&G.
Yeah.
I love a B&G. I'd kill a guy for a B&G, but French toast is right there.
Too sweet. Also, French. Okay. Come on, this is America. You know what I mean? We're taking it back.
That's a great point. That's a great point. We should put a tariff on French toast.
I'm sure that was free.
Can I put a tariff on you? Is that how does this work? I don't really understand.
No, you're taxed at max capacity just being here this morning. We can't increase the taxes anymore on our mental health, our physical health. This is just a tariff in general. You went to Rockies opening day. How were the
Oh
festivities? Biggest
my
bar in Denver
God.
was popping.
Biggest bar in Denver.
How was it? How was it?
When we got to the game, it was 38 degrees and snowing sideways. By the time we left the game in the eighth, it was 32 degrees and snowing
Great.
intermittently.
Wait, you left
I'm my
opening day early? Wow. You said you left in the eighth?
Well, I would like to say, and I'm not going to say anyone's names, but I
Oh,
was
sure.
with some other people,
Okay.
and those people were pushing for us to leave the game at the time that we did.
Wow.
Which I
Amateur
will
hour.
say, I'm fine that we did because the game went 11 innings, and my ass was frozen solid. I think had I thought about it a little bit more and maybe assumed the weather was going to be worse than it was reported, I think I would have. We were talking about like there was a guy, we saw two guys wearing their ski helmets and goggles. Like I think if I had prepped a little better,
Yeah.
it would have been more enjoyable.
Yeah, you of all
But,
people have like cold weather gear.
Yeah, and I went in jeans and a hat. So, here it was my mistake. But the event was great. Downtown was popping, even with it being bitterly cold. Everybody was out there. Like Colorado shows up for that type
Sure.
of shit. But yeah, it was great. I found myself saying this, and I felt like such an idiot saying this out loud to my lovely wife and friends. But
Common feeling for you, I'm sure.
yeah, they're unfurling the American flag and they're
Wow.
singing and everything like that. How do they time the flyover perfect every single time? It's incredible.
Are we talking jets or
We had three jets.
Okay.
Three jets fly over at the perfect moment, and then the fireworks go off and everything. And I was just amazed by that. And then the fighter jet pilots show up in the seventh inning, and they wave and
Sure.
everybody applauds them. It's just I am continuously amazed by the flyover.
Wow. True spectacle. I guess I've never really. I imagine of all things, fighter jets in that are really good at being at a very specific spot
Well,
at a very specific time. That's kind of
that
their whole thing. I think.
that's where we landed is the fact that they're
just
like,
like the-
highly trained.
Just like the pilots. You landed.
Okay.
Yeah,
They did land.
If there's anything that they should be good at doing, it's being at a spot at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. And boy, oh boy, they nailed it.
Wow.
So yeah, it was great. The festivities are great. The game was bad. It was too cold. We actually ended up going to a game last night as well against the Brew Crew, where the Brewers demolished our Colorado Rockies, which was fine. And it was 70 degrees, so it kind of we got some retribution for our frozen asses.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, it's been an interesting week for the St. Louis Cardinals. After opening week, last week's pod was and the majority of Cardinal
First place, baby.
Yeah, Cardinal Nation in general, super hyped about despite a couple losses to the Angels, we were feeling very good about particularly the offense, but the pitching was also looking pretty good. We say a lot on this show that we sort of ride the wave of the season. We're doing this every week, real time.
Dude, cowabunga, bro.
Yeah, we're riding the wave.
You like that?
I was starting to think about like a whole tangent on TMNT, and I'm just we're gonna surf right past it. This week we're back, I think, a little bit more where we kind of thought this season might be, but the offense is still good, but the pitching is starting to show some weakness. You have chosen to wear a hat that is was very Ben's leaning into the camera. If you're not watching, he's got his Green Monster Fenway hat that we got when we were in Fenway back in 2022 for that series, which was quite the opposite of how this series went this weekend.
I was rooting for the Monster the whole series. I don't know what you're
I'm always
talking
rooting
about.
for
I'm Team Monster.
Always rooting for a monster.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this week was way more of a mixed bag. So I think we've got a fair bit of stuff to talk about. What do you want to talk about first from a Cardinal perspective?
Yeah, I think we got to talk about the headline. The Cardinals' best player, at least so far in the first 2 weeks of the season, goes down.
Hmm.
Ivan Herrera out at least a month with a bone bruise. As you saw, he was kind of limping off the field. I think initially a lot of people thought that it was going to be like end of the season type of injury. So
Yeah.
I think we could be pleased that it seems like it's 4-6 weeks ish. Probably never like they're saying 4 weeks, and that would be great. But it just when you hear bone bruise, when you see a catcher with a knee issue,
Yeah.
and if he's coming back, as quickly as possible to catch and not just be a hitter, you could see that timeline getting pushed back a
Yeah.
little bit. And it's really, if this is that rebuild, retool year, whatever, you would hope that the Cardinals would exercise patience on this type of injury. But I mean, it's hard to argue with how I kind of open this. Like the most impactful player in the early season so far, right?
Oh yeah, I mean easily. He had the 3 home run game as well, which was the first time in Cardinal history a catcher hit 3 home runs in a game, which is kind of surprising. But then it's not really if you think about how Yachty was the catcher for 20 years, and then before that there were just almost never did catchers even hit home runs outside of the we can all.
Yeah, like Ted Simmons was never doing that.
Right, right. I mean, just in general, obviously we can think of a few guys over the history that were like power hitting catchers, but generally speaking, it's never been a big power role, and so it was the first time the Cardinals have had a catcher hit 3 home runs, and it was really sort of the capstone on what was looking like a major breakout for Ivan Herrera, at least offensively. Now, there's already been some people starting to question his long term legitimacy as a catcher. Um, specifically issues around his throwing arm. We'd already seen that being a bit of a problem. They've been working on it. There was already a little bit of a narrative around will he be the catcher of the future, or is he just, should we already start discussing moving him to something like a DH or even like eventually a first base sort of thing? I was not ready for any of that. I want to see him catch every game, or have a normal catcher's role this year. But this does change things, right? Like you said, it's a knee injury. People thought it was a lot worse because he's a catcher. He couldn't put weight on his knee, but now he. I mean, just having a bone bruise sounds terrible. And then think about
Yeah.
crouching over and over and over. There's a legitimate chance that this significantly impacts his ability to be a catcher this year, which fundamentally changes the equation of his future as a Cardinal and just like how that position is handled this year. For right now, we've got Pages starting and the new guy, Pozo, great last name. But I don't know. I'm trying not to be on the edge too much about this because Ivan's true value, like for being, I think is an elite hitting catcher. So I'm a little less excited about him as a DH. But for now, we just got to see how the recovery goes, and hopefully he comes back fine, and this ends up not being that big of a deal.
Yeah, I think I don't like the idea of moving him off catcher. I do think that the bat is legit, and I think that bat has the potential to be viable like anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd hope because he's young and athletic that he doesn't get stuck at DH. You'd think if they do want to end up moving him off catcher, maybe he could be third base, maybe even first base. Maybe he's an outfielder. I don't know. He's pretty quick. He's clearly athletic,
Mm-hmm.
but the bat has the potential to be super high end. I know everybody's ragging on the caught stealing, and obviously, like that's the worst part of his game. I don't know how big of a deal this is, though. I
Yeah.
like obviously situationally it can feel like a big deal, but how many extra runs are you really giving up? How detrimental to the team is a poor throwing catcher? There have been poor throwing catchers in the past that have made their way to the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying that Ivan Herrera is Mike Piazza, but like, I don't know if it is such a. I feel like the Cardinals are making it a bigger problem than it is. I would be happy to be proven wrong by someone, presented data, but like an extra base here and there to the value that he's providing. We know he's a good framer.
Mm-hmm.
He's clearly a good hitter. People like his game calling. That seems to outweigh a couple of extra bases a week or whatever the I think I was just looking at these numbers. I think he gave up 55 stolen bases last year. Yeah, 55 stolen bases against 4 caught stealing. Is that impactful? I truly am asking. I
Yeah.
really don't know. But I just think the value he's bringing outside of that one deficiency is enough that I think we're making a bit of a mountain out of a molehill. So yeah, I say all that to say I'm not worried yet. We'll see. He's young. Hopefully, he's still made of rubber and bounces back and is catching very soon. And the Cardinals continue their plan of giving him the long runway. But yeah, it's not ideal. It's probably the worst thing you want, or the worst thing a catcher can have issues with is their knees because they're obviously on them 9 innings a game. So yeah, not good.
Yeah, I also on your point there, like I tend to agree, especially with the changes to the bag. Obviously there are still some catchers out there that are doing a good job of throwing out runners, but for the most part, people are running wild. Everyone says, now you steal on the pitcher, less on the catcher, and there's only so much they can do. Again, certainly there are guys that are still really good at it, but I also wonder what is the value, what is the trade-off there, and also he could still get better. Right, like
right,
he's still young enough, and they were tinkering with him throwing from the knees to try to increase that speed. We only saw a couple shots at it, but maybe he could just improve. He's still pretty young. So that's what I said at the beginning when I went on that whole spiel, that I'm not really for moving him off, but that conversation had been out there a little bit, and certainly when you have potentially a pretty bad knee injury, like that conversation is only going to increase. The Cardinals have said that they're not at all considering moving Wilson Contreras as a backup catcher, moving him back to catcher, which I think is the right call. I was a little worried that this was going to immediately unwind all this decision making.
That would be very Cardinals like 2023, right?
Yes.
I think we're beyond that now.
I certainly hope so, and this is a point in that direction, right? Because I was like, oh man, we're gonna move Wilson back, and then it's gonna be like Burleson at first. It's just gonna reset everything that they said this offseason. So I was glad to hear that Wilson is at first, and it's done. If he wasn't gonna become catcher again now, then he never will again, right? So
yeah,
and I think we're all for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he hasn't even really taken off hitting yet. I think that I really believe in this experiment, and I really think that Wilson Contreras is going to get a offensive boost by not having to crouch, not getting hit by foul tips, and being able to focus on hitting full time. Obviously, that hasn't happened yet. Even though he's had bad results so far, like he's still hitting the ball pretty hard.
Yeah.
He's still it hasn't been amazing, and his decision making hasn't been great. But once he starts seeing the ball, I think he's going to take off, and we're going to have a lot of fun.
I agree. I'm still, last week we were saying we're not worried yet about Wilson Contreras or Mason Wynn. Now we can say we're not worried about Mason Wynn at all, right? We're going to talk about that here in a little bit.
Yeah.
And I really feel like it'll be pretty soon where we're saying the same thing about Wilson Contreras. I've read before, like, if you're playing at the major league level, any player can be elite in 50 plate appearances or terrible in 50 plate appearances. And right now we're kind of seeing that terrible in 50 plate appearances, which is about what he's at right now. But even still, he has a pretty low BABIP, just pulling it up now, 182, and his career BABIP is right over 300. So how would we be feeling if he was just getting some normal, batted ball luck as well?
Yeah.
If he had his normal batted ball luck and his batting average was up 30, 50 points or so, I think everyone would be feeling a lot different. So this is still small sample size world. He's been an elite hitter for years. I'm not worried about 50 plate appearances, and I don't think if you're listening, you should as well. Although you said it, you have to acknowledge he has looked a little rough up there too. It's not just batted ball luck,
just some bad strikeouts and stuff just like some bad decision making. But I think that just means he's not seeing the ball well. And once he does, he'll start doing that thing where he hits 112-mile liners all over the field, and we'll be having a good time.
Yeah. So the Cardinals called up Yoel Pozo, which they acquired right at the near the end of the offseason. And here he is. He's joining. I don't know. We suddenly have every catcher for the St. Louis Cardinals can hit the ball. It seems because shout out to
over the wall too, not just hit the ball, hit the ball for power.
Yeah. Shout out to Pedro Pages, who is now elevated to starting catcher. He's looked good. He's already put up a 141 WRC plus. So obviously Ivan was crushing the ball and was way higher than that, but 141. I mean, that's MVP level season in and of itself. So obviously we're not anticipating that extending all season, but dude can hit the ball. Shout out to friend of the show, Jake Wood. He's been calling for that for a while, saying Pedro Pages has been underrated. And we're about to get a real look at him again as a starter. And so far, so good. I think he's that sort of prototypical big slugging catcher who plays the position pretty well and doesn't always look the best at the plate, but he can get behind one and crush it.
Yeah, I have concerns about Pedro Pages' long-term offensive viability. I don't want to rain on Jake's parade. I don't want to rain on anyone's parade. He's doing it well right now. Hopefully he can keep it up. But I'm not sure he has the most disciplined approach at the plate.
Well, he hasn't drawn a walk yet, but of course it's only 23 plate appearances.
It's totally fine. I'm not even judging that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'm just not ready to celebrate yet, and I think Ivan Herrera is the future.
Sure.
But he's obviously he's good enough to be a big league catcher for a month or so, and I think that Yoel Pozo, we kind of highlighted his offensive profile once the Cardinals acquired him. He is kind of like this all gas, no breaks, doesn't walk, doesn't strike out, has legitimate pop in that bat. Mm-hmm. He's a weird hitter.
Yeah.
And I think, with watching his performance behind the plate in game one and his, there's some stick-to-itiveness. He got clotheslined by Wilson Contreras, which, man, Yoel Pozo is a big guy, right? But it just shows you how built like a frickin' brick house Wilson Contreras is when those guys run into each other at the same speed and Pozo goes flying and Wilson Contreras is kind of like, oh, sorry, dude, I didn't see you there.
Does
scary,
does a wolf
Very
concern
scary.
himself with the opinions of sheep?
Oh, dude, that's so hardcore, dude. Damn,
Hunks are back.
Tight.
We've been talking about it, It's
Hunk City over at first base, I'll tell you that. But I think Pozo will be interesting. Obviously, the guy, he seems to be, seems like a guy who's really focused on that pitcher-catcher relationship. Mm-hmm. There was, I'll read a quote from Liberatore later in the episode talking about that. And then, like I said, we have this really unique offensive profile that I think, at least if you're like a nerd or whatever, it's going to be interesting to watch because he makes a lot of contact. It's just a weird thing. Nobody really swings like this. It's kind of fun.
You heard it here, folks. If you're a nerd, you're going to enjoy watching this.
Oh, I'm throwing myself into that bucket, Nathan. Yeah. I don't know why you're. I mean, look who I'm talking to here. Like
I just only bash nerds. So.
Oh, dude. Oh wait, I forgot the show was cool now.
Yeah, we're
cool. You're right.
Yeah, remember the show is both.
Pozo sucks.
The show is good, and we're cool now. That's in 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. I think it's interesting. It's good timing, I guess. And I guess it should also be noted that Mosaic was talking to our favorite reporter, John Denton,
hey, Ben,
and mentioned.
Ben, could you keep it down, please?
I'm so sorry, John. I'm afraid of John Denton now because he tough talked you.
I know. I've never said a negative thing about him in my life. It's you, and I get shushed.
John, if you're listening, Nate's sorry. Mozeliak said that he will keep an eye on the catching market. I imagine that this is just for a Pozo
Yeah.
level type replacement, but I'm kind of at the point of like Pozo's had offensive success in the minors for a while. He seems like he might be a good, catch and throw guy. Like, I don't know what, I'm not sure if there's a ton of urgency to replace that right now,
Especially as your backup catcher, right?
Right.
Really your backup, assuming, let's say things are even are worse for Ivan and it takes 2 months to get back instead of 1 month or 6 weeks or whatever. We're still talking, was that 8-10 starts for the backup through over that period, if that, even
Right.
depending on Page's durability. I'd be very surprised if they make any sort of meaningful move in this regard, especially nothing long term when you also consider that the Cardinals have Jimmy Crooks, cooking down in the
I
minors too.
do Crooks be cooking. I
Yeah.
do wonder,
Like a
I
prison
think the
chef.
Cardinals are taking a very measured approach with old Cook and Crooks,
Uh-huh.
which makes sense. Like he's a lot of people I think are thinking he's the future. There's a lot in that tank. But I do wonder like how bad does it get that like for Jimmy Crooks to make an appearance? Probably it probably I would
I just don't
imagine
even see it
Mozeliak would acquire somebody
before.
before
Yes,
calling him up. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Unless unless he makes some significant leaps over the next couple of weeks. I think most people believe he needs more time in the minors, and so I would be surprised if they rush him for
Yeah.
hopefully a short term
For
spot.
for what it's worth, Crooks is cooking in AAA right now.
Yeah.
He's got a nice little offensive season brewing down there. So, he's going to be good at some point. Maybe like you're going back to the Ivan Herrera. Maybe Ivan Herrera does move off of catcher because Crooks forces that decision because he's obviously a bit of a defensive star.
Yeah.
And it looks like he might be able to hit a bit too. Maybe that pushes Ivan to left field or.
Well, we certainly
third
need more
base, or
outfielders.
who knows?
That to me is the likely evolution of Ivan Herrera's move from catcher. It's not because he can't do it and they decide to move him out because he's failing at it. It's more that he gets pushed out because of someone like Jimmy Crooks, which kind of a lot of things have to still go really well for exactly that to happen. But I don't think they're going to move Ivan unless this knee thing ends up becoming more and they just want him to come back as an offensive player and not worry about catching or something like that.
Yeah.
But this is all so pure speculation as this injury just happened, and we're sort of I guess we'll see how it
speculating
evolves.
wildly.
Yeah, but
that's what we do here.
That's right. But I think the most likely situation is that Pages is the starter, Pozo is the backup, and we just roll with that for the next month or two, and that's it. Then
have the best slugging catcher combination in MLB.
Yes,
No big deal.
There you go. Well, there was another IL move. This one was a bummer, though certainly less directly impactful to the starting roster, which is Nolan Gorman was placed on the IL with what's being called a minor hamstring issue. They're expecting him to be activated at earliest opportunity. Hopefully that happens. It sounds like maybe he could have even avoided the IL, but why risk it? And so they place him on the IL. We said it at the beginning of the season. We thought that the biggest impact of Arenado still being with the Cardinals was Gorman likely losing at bats, and that is basically exactly what has happened. Gorman has seen very limited play, but for what it's worth, he's looked really good in that limited play. So hopefully he comes back healthy. I'd love for them to find more at bats for him because he's looking good, and we're all pretty big believers in the ceiling that Gorman has.
Yeah, I mean he's been given 9 plate appearances and he's hitting 500. Obviously, that's massively or insanely small sample size, but he's been successful, and I think it's really just the quality of the at bat and like his eye early is what you can get excited about. Yeah, it almost seems like because he didn't really have a at bats, they like maybe opted for the IL over anything else. It was kind of funny because even Ollie said that he's swinging,
Yeah.
he's throwing, he's just not really running right now. So like it's not that big of a deal. But I agree. I think you want to keep Gorman healthy. You don't want him to be fighting a hamstring for the first half and it tank part of his season. And this is probably the smart way to handle it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. We talked about this. I don't really know where he's going to get those ABs. Burleson has had a really slow start to the season, albeit only 2 weeks. Maybe that's where the ABs come. They kind of flip the script and they give Gorman some of those Burley ABs.
Yeah. I certainly hope so. I think really what they're looking at with this IL move and just how they've handled the team so far is that the offense is working, and let's not rock the boat too much, which I think we're all kind of for. So this is nitpicky that I'd rather have Gorman getting at bats or at least splitting it more with Alec Burleson, but the offense isn't really the problem with the team. And so if they want to be cautious with Gorman and make sure he's 100% healthy before they start giving him more at bats, like fine, totally fine with that, no problem at all. And
Yeah.
they have some flexibility there because the offense is doing so well. Now, hopefully that maintains. Without Herrera was a huge part of that, a huge part of why they have a league leading offense. And like we said, Pages has done a good job immediately stepping into that. But hopefully he can maintain it.
It's funny how long your lineup can look when you have a catcher that is worthy of being feared. Like,
right.
Just that flat statement it's a lot of fun. And a corresponding move with Gormy going down, that means we got to see Thomas Saggese called up from AAA. And he's looked fine so far, right? He's got a couple of hits. He switched from no gloves to gloves and got a hit, which I thought was
it's a big deal.
Horrible.
I know.
I didn't like it. But Saggese looks like an MLB player. There's a weird roster crunchy thing where I think that's really the only reason he's not on the big league club, and he'll probably go back down when Gourmet gets healthy. But he looks the part to me. I like watching him play. He's fun.
Yeah. I don't really have like a whole lot to say about Saggese. I was glad to see him called up. I know it was a bit of a surprising move. A lot of people thought like this is very likely a very short term thing. So why not do something like a Fermin, who we know can slide in a bunch of places and be fine, and let Saggese continue to develop at the minor league level. My take kind of on it is that I don't really know that Saggese needs more time at the minor league level. And so just getting up, being a part of the big league club, getting some starts, getting some pinch hits here, like that is as valuable as playing down in the minors, if not more for him. So I was happy to see him up, and that seems to indicate that he is kind of next man up in this sort of situation of an infielder going down. And I think that makes a lot of sense. You do kind of feel for him because he does seem MLB ready, but he doesn't really have a spot. But that's just how it goes, and he'll, one way or another, if he truly is MLB level, he'll find a place as an everyday player with the Cardinals or otherwise. And so I liked it, even if it is for just a short term.
Yeah. And I think it'll be interesting. Like, are the Cardinals going to have the bravery to start him in like a corner outfield position at some point? We know that he could start at third. It looks like he can fake it at least enough to be a shortstop and play second base. Can they start him in a corner outfield? Because then he starts becoming like we were talking about Jose Barrero and Michael Hellman a couple of weeks ago. Then he gets to that super utility guy. And maybe that's how he forces his way onto the team and to be a part of the conversation. To that point, how do you feel about the way that the Cardinals have used Michael Ciani so far?
Yeah, see, I have such a I'm struggling to enunciate here because I'm struggling to form a strong opinion on Michael Ciani right now.
Yeah.
Like there was a game this week where they pinch ran. It was I believe it was one of the Red Sox games. They Walker drew a walk, and so they pinch ran Walker or Ciani for Walker. And like on paper, that kind of makes sense. Siani's pretty fast. He's better defense. So you're setting up the defense. But then I thought, well, Walker's one of the fastest guys on the team. So it's not like this was really needed. We know his offensive profile is singles only pretty much. Uh,
And
and
rarely.
what's that?
And rarely.
And rarely. And we know he's a Gold Glove center fielder, but that's really it. So I don't know. I said it when the decision was made at the beginning that I don't really understand why he's on the team right now. When you made the Victor Scott selection, and I do like the ability to go like heavy defense in the later innings. But I don't know. Walker's looked fine. That ended up being where we didn't have Walker in the lineup anymore, and that game got close again and tied and all that. And you would have wished you had Walker in the lineup versus Siani. And so
Yeah.
I'm kind of meandering at this point, but I think like I still don't really know why he's on the team, and I'd be fine with them not having him on the team anymore. Even though I love his defense and I totally understand there's a spot for that and a place for that on this team. Just it's not. I don't know if it's worth it. What's your take?
Yeah, I think he's got 10 games played and 9 plate appearances. So it's like it feels like a waste of a roster spot right now when you could be giving at bats to somebody who's a little more part of the Cardinals' future. I really do believe he is one of the best center fielders in the game. And I think there's value there for sure. But Victor Scott's really good too. And Victor Scott's going to be playing every day.
Yeah.
Jordan Walker is going to be playing every day. Lars Nootbaar is going to be playing every day. So it's there's not a lot of ABs to go around.
Yeah, you want a fourth outfielder, right? But these guys need days off. But just prioritizing strictly defense with that fourth outfielder feels a little strange when you've got
well, like I said, I would rather see, and maybe this is not in his game at all, I would rather see a Thomas Saggese getting a rep in right field than Siani. Maybe he can do that. Maybe there's something there. But yeah, they've used him so little. They obviously don't trust his bat at all, but he's got a great glove, which is hugely valuable. And like, there's probably going to be a situation this week, because we're talking about it now, where he goes into center, Victor slots over to take over for Jordan Walker, and Michael Siani makes an unbelievable catch that him and only him could make. But that catch that Victor Scott made against the wall in Boston, I mean, he's
good.
He's very good. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't loved it. It feels like a bit of a wasted roster spot, but it's very early. We'll see how this all unfolds, and maybe we'll be like begging for that defense in a month, or who knows.
And you could be doing a lot worse with one of your last roster spots than a Gold Glove center fielder. So
absolutely,
that's why
like this is like if I was building a team on MLB The Show, I would probably draft a Michael Siani because you can get him in like the 30th round, and he's the best defensive outfielder. But
that's why we're both I feel very ambivalent on this whole thing. It was like I get it, like I totally understand it. I just don't think that it's how I would be prioritizing the team right now, but I understand why they are. So I don't know. I guess we'll see how it develops. Despite the injuries and all that, the Cardinal offense is still top tier, which has been fun. But what is starting to look a little more shaky is the pitching. And
nice way to say it.
And we certainly saw that in Boston, which is a tough place to pitch. There's a lot going on there. But we also saw it against the Pirates, which is a very different team. I think so.
That's a nice way to say that as well. You're being very diplomatic.
Thank you. I'm running for office. More tariffs is my platform. Miles Mikolas.
Yeah.
Love the guy.
Cowboy up, partner.
Cowboy up. He says
great mustache.
He says cowabunga.
Cowabunga. He is put together.
Yeah. We love a Miles Mikolas.
We do.
How long does this go? 10 earned
Yeah.
runs and 8 innings pitched.
Yeah, Jake posted in the Bird scored an interview with Ali Marmol, and this was, I think, Bernie Mikolas was the one that asked the question, like, how long can you let this guy ride, and what are you doing to make him better? And Marmol kind of was saying, well, we're doing everything we can to make him better, and it's not really my. I'm not the one who decides. If Miles is going to be on this team or not. All my job is to do is to put him in the best situation to be as good as possible and help him improve. And I think that I'm curious to hear your response to this. I actually think that Miles Mikolas, I don't think he's like physically cooked or anything like that. I just think that his current repertoire is inefficient to get out big league hitters. And I think that there is probably a way that if you could hide him away in a pitching lab for a few months, that he could adjust his repertoire, his release angle, his something, and he could be an effective major league pitcher. But he has not made enough adjustments to keep up with the current game. And unless he makes a dramatic change, and by that I mean never throwing his four-seam fastball ever again, and maybe leaning on the curveball, maybe leaning on the slider, maybe only throwing sinkers.
Just become a true junk ball guy, right?
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not do that? I also think that there's, I am not, I don't know anything about biomechanics. I don't know anything about anything, actually, to be clear. But I think that he could probably get a little more out of his pitches if he wasn't. He does that like weird short arm thing. If he just was willing to make some adjustments, and I don't think anything I'm saying could happen in the year 2025. Maybe it's a next year thing. Maybe he wants to keep pitching and he makes some big adjustments. But I just don't think he has the gear to get out big league hitters right now, unless, like I said, he makes a dramatic change to the style of pitching that he's doing.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that or like the weird thing about Mikolas, and we've seen it already this year. Last year you look at his season line, and it's not one that you really want one of your starters to end with. But he also was either the leader or one of the leaders on the team in quality starts. Right, 6 innings pitched, 6 innings minimum, 3 earned runs or less. And he's one of those guys where he's either going to give you like almost exactly that, somewhere around 6 innings and 3 earned runs, or it's going to be like 5 innings and like 8 or 9 earned runs. It's like he either has it and you can tell right away, or he doesn't, and it's just going to be bad. And so we've seen a little bit of that already this year, right? Quality start in his first start, and we're like, okay. Did it against the Twins. All right. We like that. Gets absolutely demolished by the Red Sox. And then poor Gordon Graceffo. It's gonna take a while for him to get that career ERA into a place that he likes. But anyway.
Yeah, that sucked for him.
Yeah. Here you go, kid. Wear one for a game. And so like that's the dice roll with Miles Mikolas is like, and we kind of saw this with Waino too in his last few years of his career too, right? Like you're always gonna get length because he'll just keep going out there hurling. And it's just like either it's working or it's not, and there really isn't like an in between. Like you don't really see him working out of jams. It's like if he gets in a jam, everyone's gonna score and the game's gonna go poorly, or he just sort of cruises through it. I don't know if that's like what you're saying, where it's like, well, it's a mechanics thing and a pitch mix thing where he could get better, or it's like his arsenal's fine, he's just isn't able to do it all the time. Or maybe like you're saying, certain lineups are more geared up for his type of approach and other teams are not as good. So it's kind of a matchup based thing. I don't know, but it's been so consistent for years now where he either is great or bad and there's no in between. And I don't think that that's what this team needs right now. I don't know if it's worth it to try to solve it either. It's like I'd rather just see McGreevy, you know.
Well,
But
I think that's
yeah,
a very important point. Is that so? I said all that I said. I do think that there is probably a scenario in which he could become a more effective
yeah,
big league pitcher and maybe increase those strikeouts a little bit. I don't think the Cardinals should be in that business anymore
yeah,
because of what you just said. There are Grisefos, there are McGreevy's, there are Victor Santos's. There are just other
yeah,
people that should get a chance. And their performance, if they come in and get more blown up than Mikolas does, at least we know what they look like against big league pitching. I just think that there's value in passing these starts
yeah,
around rather than letting Miles cowboy up every fifth day or sixth day like it's going to be here soon. And the Cardinals just don't need to be like I said, don't need to be in the business of trying to turn this
yeah,
guy around because there's no value in it.
yeah. My guess is that it's going to take an extended run of it not working, but probably
Yeah.
not incredibly extended, right? But I do think every
Well,
time I
I
think every time he goes out there and does 6 innings and 3 earned runs and like he resets the clock a little bit, and they're like, all right, he can
absolutely.
still do it. And maybe that just goes all year because that's kind of been his thing. But I think if we start to see 3, 4 of those in a row,
Yeah.
I do think that maybe I'm being naive here, but I feel a little more confident in the Cardinals making a decision this year than I did maybe last year with him and moving
Well,
on.
I think because it's his walk year,
Yeah,
also. Like the Cardinals, they don't have to worry about another year
yeah,
of him being under contract. And I want to make sure I'm characterizing this all well correctly, but I do want to point out that Miles, while he was throwing about, his fastball percentage has been about 27% of the time since like 2018. It has dropped to 19%, about 20%. So
yeah.
he is ditching that four seam fastball a little bit more, and he has increased his sinker usage a little bit. And he's increased his slider usage a little bit, and it's only 2 starts, so I need to chill out also. So maybe he is leaning towards adjusting his repertoire to be a little more effective, and maybe we need to see a little bit more of that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think we agree on the status of this poor man.
Well, this
Actually, I don't even feel bad for him. He's very wealthy. He had a great comeback story.
he's had a great career.
Um,
He's 37,
yeah,
38. Like
yeah. This is what happens.
this is what happens. Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing too, is you almost like if it's over, you want it to kind of end more gracefully for him than just getting shelled.
Getting slugged.
Yeah, getting shelled
absolutely.
into oblivion.
Right.
But let's talk about on the whole other side of this discussion, we have a young pitcher who might be putting it together. Vin, what do you got up for us on Matthew Liberatore?
Yeah, this podcast is pro Matthew Libby. I think he's showing those signs. His XFIP, his expected fielding independent pitching, which is a stat that I really dig.
Yeah.
And we have enough innings to actually talk about it now, is at 2.47. And really, if you're not familiar with XFIP, if it looks like an ERA, it's things are going very, very well.
Mhm.
And that is a sterling XFIP. If anything under 3 is really, really special. Again, small sample size, all those things need to be pointed out, but we all know that. We can only report on the baseball that we have, right? He's yet to walk anybody, which I think is very, very good news.
Yes.
And his curveball, according to Fangraphs Stuff Plus, has a 198 rating, Nate. 198. That is redonkulous.
And
that thing
100 is league average, right? So this
That's
is
right.
like a WRC plus, an OPS plus sort of thing. So 198, 98% better than league average.
Pure filth.
Yes.
So far early this season. His slider is sitting at a 130 Stuff Plus,
Which would
also
be
disgusting.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a 130. If you said that for his curveball, we'd be like, hell yeah, right? So
Yes.
yeah,
The stuff is looking really good. He's also got a nice cutter that's been working well for him. And And something I said that I wanted to talk about Yohel Pozo a little more when we talked about Libby. A quote from Liberatore after his Pirates start, which, if you remember that start, the first inning was okay. The second inning, he got touched. And then him and Pozo had this a conversation, and they kind of changed the way that they were attacking hitters. And Liberatore went on to say that Pozo, referencing Pozo, he came to me after the second inning and said, "Hey, let's slow them down a little." We started pitching backward. We stuck with that plan, and it worked. And I think that this is the pathway to Liberatore becoming a really effective major league pitcher, is leaning on those breaking balls, mixing in that cutter. Obviously, the fastball's got some nice ride on it. He's got a sinker. He's got the stuff to do it. It's just, I think, sequencing it in the right way to get out big league hitters, leaning on those elite breaking balls. You know, the conventional wisdom nowadays is throw your best pitch the most.
Yeah.
And I think the closer that Libby gets to that, I'm not saying he needs to throw 50% curveballs or anything like that, but I think the closer he gets to that, the more success he's going to find. And I think we're seeing the control, the stuff, and maybe the mental aspect of his game all maybe coming together. Now, he's still gotten hit around a little bit. That second inning against Pittsburgh wasn't great, but the fact that he was able to turn around, this is what we're looking for.
Right.
This is the stuff that you can start dreaming on.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that from Pozo. It's cool to see him just come in, immediately make a read on both his pitcher and the team we're playing against, and make a meaningful impact on the game from a game planning perspective. And then just can't be said enough, not walking anybody despite having breaking pitches with that degree of stuff is quite incredible.
Yeah.
That sort of command of the breaking ball is what you're looking for to sort of level up and take that next step. So early results, but there's some underlying metrics here. Yeah.
I'm buying stock on the Liberatore company right now. Like, it is.
Ooh, I hate to break it to you, but there's we just put a
25% loss,
104% tariff on Liberatore stock. So
damn it. Great. So yeah. Anyways, I'm feeling great about that. Somebody else I'm feeling really great about right now, Nathan.
Yes, Benjamin.
Phil Maton.
Yeah. Yeah, we were calling for the signing during the offseason. The Cardinals, we know 100% of the Cardinals front office listens, so we appreciate that. They finally, right. Took the advice. And I mean, at this point, with Fernandez and Romero having some ups and downs, we've already seen it. Maton is the setup guy, right? He is the next in line behind Helsley, and he's doing a really good job of it so far, at least.
Yeah, I mean that he hasn't given up and run,
Yeah.
What else do you want? The guys look great. That sweeper is legit. Yeah, I wish the Cardinals would have done a couple more guys like Maton, just because I think it's a smart thing to do. But we also didn't know that Roycroft was going to have a rough start to the season.
Right.
We didn't know that Ryan Fernandez was going to have a rough start to the season. I'm not giving up on those guys yet. We've talked about this all the time, but relievers' lives are extremely volatile.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if Ryan Fernandez goes out today against the Pirates while we're recording and just absolutely shoves. So,
right.
But it's fun to have somebody like Maton. It's fun to have somebody, if Helsley needs a day off because he gets blown up, like what happened in that Red Sox series, it's nice to know that you can throw a Maton out there to get the save the next day, or somebody you just have confidence in, I guess.
Yeah, on that one too. It was inevitable Ryan Helsley was going to blow a save. He hadn't given up a run in 20 innings or something like an incredible run. He's probably the best reliever in baseball right now. But boy, was that a disappointing time and style.
Well, I was going to say it was the way in which it went down, where it's the gas is there, the breaking ball is breaking, and some of we were talking about in the bird squad while this was happening, he wasn't even missing by that much.
In fact, you could argue a lot of them were really good pitches that might have been where they wanted it. I walked away from that thinking, damn, the Red Sox just beat Ryan Helsley. He didn't blow that. I mean, it was a lot of walks. If you look at the box score, it looks like he was all over the place, but he really wasn't. He was on, he was right on the edge a lot, which is where he lives a lot too. Obviously some of those he was trying to throw a strike and he didn't. I don't want to,
Yeah,
but
right.
but like there were some pitches that I could not believe those Red Sox hitters were laying off of.
And that pitch to Devers that was a strike that was called the ball.
Right.
I mean,
well, robot
that's
umps.
the first time, huh?
Robot umps.
Well, that I was going to say that's the first time of the season, and I'm sure there will be many more where I was like, man, I wish we had that challenge system, which I think is preferred route over robot umps.
Yeah. Okay.
But like that right there, it's a very impactful point in the game. It could have turned that inning around, or definitely would have meant that Devers didn't bank a double off of the Green Monster again. But yeah. Anyways, Maton's been great. I also really quickly want to talk about Mason Wynn. We mentioned he just hit a home run. It looks like he's starting to turn the corner.
Yep.
Wearing his little balaclava every game.
Him and Arenado, they're just so chilly. They're just so cold.
It's very funny to me.
They're
like
so
they were
in
Pittsburgh when it's like in the 20s, I get wearing the balaclava, but when it's in the 50s,
they're just chilly boys.
Whatever. Yeah, as long as you're comfy.
I kind of think they might think it looks cool too.
Do you think so?
I don't know. I think so. I think they think.
It looks kind of silly. But they're cooler than me, so they should be the arbiter of that, I suppose.
Yeah. Well. So I was looking at Fangraphs earlier, and I think this kind of
I've heard of it.
I think this kind of explains like the first 2 weeks of the season. The Cardinals are first in on base percentage, second in OPS, fifth in home runs, third in runs. That they're all over the place. They're a top 3 team in offense. Kind of whatever stat other than stolen bases, but whatever. They're just across the board a top level offensive team. But from a starting pitching standpoint, they're 29th in ERA, 15th in WHIP, 25th in K per 9, 21st in hits per 9, 23rd in home runs per 9. Right back in the middle, bottom, either in the middle or very bottom of the pack when it comes to starting pitching. And so, like, it's awesome that they have a good offense. Like it's a big question mark coming into the season. As we said last year, is one of the biggest problems. And I think all signs point to this team being very good offensively, but already 2 weeks in, the cracks are starting to show on this team's long-term ability to be successful in 2025. And so we're going to need to see some either performances start to shape up or some changes need to start happening to the rotation and the bullpen in order for this team to actually compete in 2025, as they already now are in third place, 2.5 games back. The Cubs look really good. Kyle Tucker is
Kyle Tucker going nuclear. Yeah, he's having a nice start to the season. I think everything you're saying obviously makes sense, and just watching the games, the eyeball test will tell you that the starting pitching has been the problem. But the good news is that Tekoa Roby and Quentin Matthews and Michael McGreevy and all these guys exist, and to be confident in those guys to the degree in which you're comfortable. But there are levers to pull, and there are ways out of this situation, and we get to dream, we get to be hopeful. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, like the offense being really, really, really good immediately is such a significant improvement over the last couple of years, and it being driven by I know obviously Herrera's out, but Brendan Donovan, Lars Nootbaar, Jordan Walker, it's like those guys are the future, and they're the heart of the lineup right
Victor
now.
Scott.
I didn't even mention Victor Scott, who is exceeding expectations significantly.
From a watchability standpoint, it makes the games a lot more fun to watch. Now, I would much rather watch the Cardinals lose 7-9 than lose 3-0,
9-0.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. But at least they're putting rallies together. They're never giving up. This team's ability to not pay attention to the scoreboard, all that shit has been good.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Anything else you want to talk about from the Cardinals before we move to the back half of the show?
Nah, dog.
All right. Well, before we do that, we're going to talk about the upcoming series and some league news and whatnot. But before we do, we want to remind everybody that this show is listener supported on Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. We've mentioned the bird scored several times on this episode because it has been my social media during this season so far. Like I it's just where I want to go to talk to other Cardinal fans as the season progresses. And if you want to be a part of that, it's a lot of fun. If you don't know what Discord is, it's a private chat server basically, and anyone who signs up gets access to that. And it's just a really nice way to support us, the show, the time it takes to put into bringing this to you every single week. Now 164 weeks in a row, which is insane. So check that out. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. We also appreciate anyone who leaves a review on your favorite podcast platform. That still helps a ton. And tell your friends, tell your family. Podcasts still spread through word of mouth a lot as well. So, Hambone, where can people find us elsewhere online?
Yeah, you can find us on our socials. We are over at Blue Sky. We are on Instagram. We got a TikTok. Come and poke our faces on all those things. This podcast is also available to listen to on Spotify. We're on YouTube as well. You can listen to the audio on YouTube. We are also uploading full video versions of this. I'm not sure anyone was asking for it, but we're doing it. So there you go. You can find all of that information about the podcast, our socials. We have t-shirts available at talkingaboutbirds.com. And of course, you can email us thoughts, questions, anything you might have to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And of course, finally, you can call us and leave a voicemail or send a text message to 848-48-BIRDS. That's 848-482-4737.
Yeah, questions, comments, thoughts for the show, topics you want us to cover, whatever it may be. Good opening bits, all that. Text us. And talkingaboutbirds.com is the easiest place to find all of our stuff. So, all right, Hambone. The Cardinals are finishing up the series against Pittsburgh as we speak. The game has just started, hoping to take that series. It is the rubber match. They have a day off on Thursday, and then we'll be facing the Phillies. Definitely the best team the Cardinals will have played so far, though the Red Sox are starting to look pretty good. So, maybe they already just played the best team that they will have played this year, but Phillies, many people expect to contend in the East and challenge for a World Series. Some elite names, Harper and Trey Turner and Kyle Schwarber. Then you got Zach Wheeler, Nola. This team is star-studded. Everyone knows the Phillies. Do we have a sense of the pitching matchups yet?
Yeah, it looks like the Cardinals are going to draw Aaron Nola to start the series off on Friday. Christopher Sanchez, who I am high on. I don't know if you've been paying attention to his kind of uptick in fastball velocity and just stuff, but I think he might have a really nice season this year. And then it gets easier on Sunday where the Cardinals draw Zach Wheeler. So Nola, Sanchez, Wheeler. I mean, this team has really good pitchers, but I think the Cardinals, unfortunately, are drawing the three best starting pitchers that the Phillies have to offer. And Wheeler being one of the best pitchers in the game, if not the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this team is really good. I'll also call out that Schwarber has had a really nice start to the season. I don't know if you saw that home run he hit on Tuesday night, but I think it was 470 feet. He bounced one off the chop house in Atlanta.
Nice.
He's looking hot. Harper is heating up a little bit. The team's good. It's a World Series bound team. I think it's they're one of the best teams in baseball. And they're just good all over. So good luck, guys.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. And then right after that, the Astros come to town. Who, I mean, they're just perennially good. Yordan Alvarez, Jose Altuve. They don't have Kyle Tucker now. Framber Valdez, they're still a good team. They're not quite the team they've been maybe in years past as their core has aged, but they are still a very good team.
Yeah, I think if you haven't been paying attention to the Astros, a thing to call out is that Jose Altuve is now their left fielder. He's still leading off. He's still hitting very well, but kind of a big change for them. Brendan Rodgers, the former Rockies player, is playing second base for them. And I think the good news is that Isaac Paredes, Yordan Alvarez, and Christian Walker, kind of their 2, 3, 4 hitters, haven't really started to hit yet. Now, that could change in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some boppers.
Yep.
But they really haven't been doing anything so far. So the Cardinals might be able to take advantage of the fact that they haven't been bopping and maybe sneak out some wins here and on home field. But I expect them to be good.
Yeah.
I don't expect them to be great. I'm Rangers in the
Sure.
West, AL West this year over Houston or anybody else. But Yordan Alvarez gets bopping and your butthole tightens up. So we'll see what happens.
It's gonna be a tough week for the Cardinals. Good luck to
Yeah.
everyone's buttholes. This is gonna be a tough one. So we'll see how it goes. Good,
Yeah.
You know what they say? It's a good test. It's a good test of this offense and of this team. They are all at home, so
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see how this offense performs against the likes of Zach Wheeler and Hunter Brown and all these kind of high-end arms.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about some league news. A few things happening around the league, including I know we're going to start with some a real tragedy.
Yeah. And especially the fact that he was a Cardinal and won a World Series with the Cardinals, and I think he's part of the fam. But if you haven't seen this, Octavio Dotel passed away in the last couple of days due to a roof collapse at a nightclub.
Yeah,
where like 28 or 30 people also died.
The numbers keep going up. It's bad, man.
Oh, man.
And it's people have been calling it a nightclub. It seems like it was just like a big music venue because the person playing is a sort of legendary act in the meringue music industry. And so like someone from like the 80s, which would explain why like a whole bunch of people in their like wealthy people in their 50s and 60s were there. You think of like nightclub in the Dominican and a certain thing pops in your head. And I don't think that's exactly what this was. There were other baseball players there as well. But yeah, just total tragedy. You just think about this, like this guy is this incredible life, wins a World Series, and then dies from a roof cave in at a venue in the Dominican Republic. Just crazy. Thoughts to his
family
and everything. It's just a real tragedy.
Yeah. Total nightmare scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Just really quick. In 2011, he started the season with Toronto. I'm sure everyone remembers that trade that brought him and other players from Toronto to St. Louis. He pitched 24 and 2/3 innings, had almost 12 Ks per nine, less than 2 walks per nine, had 3.2 ERA, and then, like we already said, won the World Series and was a big part of that push in that postseason. So
he returned to the World Series the next year with the Detroit Tigers as well.
Yeah. So sad news. And I don't really know how to transition from sad news, but we'll just keep barreling through. The Blue Jays have finally extended their guy, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., will be making $500 million over the next 14 years and will likely be a lifetime Blue Jay. I think this is great.
Yeah.
I cannot believe the Blue Jays actually got it done.
Yeah.
I'm happy that Vladimir wanted to get it done, that they were willing to pay the guy. I think that this is probably great value for everybody.
Yeah.
I think that he maybe could have gotten a little bit more than this on the open market. A lot of people were talking about the Mets kind of doing a Juan Soto type thing and doing anything to get him to be their first baseman of the future. I love that he's sticking with this team. I hope this is a turning of the page for the Blue Jays and that they can start signing players with some confidence that a really good player is going to be there for a while. And I think it's good for baseball generally when a Vladimir Jr. is on a team like Toronto.
Yeah.
I just think That's good.
Yeah, I agree completely. We've kind of blasted the Blue Jays over the years for some poor decision making, and lack of commitment to things like this. So it's really good to see it get it done. It's also interesting to note that Vlad had said my deadline is spring training, or maybe it was the start of the season, and yet the teams continue talking and this got done. So proves that like that it can always continue if if a side is willing. I think it's interesting to see a first baseman get such a big contract. You and I have talked a lot about like the undervaluing of first baseman. He's obviously a very unique one, still very young, elite level hitter, likely future Hall of Famer. So it's not exactly just like a Tristan Casas or something like that we've talked about with the Red Sox. But you don't usually see first baseman nowadays getting this much money. So maybe it's going to change the first base market, or maybe he just truly is an outlier. I guess we'll see. But yeah, it's cool. Who doesn't love Vlad Jr.? And I agree that he's more fun as a Blue Jay than like a Met or a Dodger or whatever.
Yeah, and I think everything that you said I agree with. I also think the fact that he would be 27 going into his free agent year is another part of the reason why this number is so high. It's like guys just don't become available at 26, 27 years old, which is, I think, really what inflated Juan Soto's market, is what would have inflated Vlad's market. That age is getting a guy that young is just hard to do because you got 6 years of prime in there, and then you imagine Vlad, he's going to have a steady tail off where he's still pretty effective for a while.
Yeah. He very likely will be very good for the entire 14 years of this deal.
Yeah. Speaking of young guys, the Rockies promote two of their top prospects, two of the top prospects in baseball. Chase Dollander and Zach Veen make their debut. I was actually at Zach Veen's debut last night, which was pretty exciting. And the reason I put this on is obviously I'm a part-time Rockies fan, but I don't think the Rockies have ever had a pitching prospect like Dollander, and he looked pretty good. He's got a great fastball. The sweeper is real. I'm not saying that the page is turning for the Rockies, but it's something I can at least be excited about.
I was thinking the same thing. Veen is cool. He's interesting, speedster sort of guy. Could be really good. We'll see. But Dollander, you have not heard about a pitcher for the Rockies like this in quite a long time. So it'll be interesting to see if he can overcome a lot of things that are going against him, which are just being a rookie pitcher in Coors.
Good luck, buddy.
Yeah. I'm rooting for him too. It'd be fun to have a good pitcher in Coors.
It would be a lot of fun. People, it can be done. I swear. You just need to be good. Shohei Ohtani says that the Dodgers are being conservative and thoughtful with his pitching rehab. Nate, I'm calling it right now. I don't know if Shohei is going to pitch this year.
I've been saying it for a while. I don't think he should. I totally understand the value, the two-way, all of that. I get it. But like, just look at last year. Look at that team's rotation already. Like, why risk losing what Ohtani currently brings for the dream of him doing it both again? Every time he gets hurt, it's because of pitching. So just let him hit. I know what he wants. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But I think probably there is a little bit of, from a management perspective, we're just being real conservative. In the back of their minds, we're like, we don't really want him to pitch anymore. We just have to do this delicately because he's our best player and the most famous athlete on the planet right now. They don't want to piss him off.
Yeah, there's not a long history of great success after second Tommy John surgeries. There's not a lot of longevity after that either. Now, I will say I'm the opposite of you. I think I would love Shohei to pitch more. I think that it is one of the great wonders that we get to watch in baseball. Now, and I'd love to see that again.
That's where I'm torn on it. I get that. I get all of it. It's just like, he's so good already. Do you need both? I think maybe as a reliever would be interesting, especially if you do like the really fun idea of like, he's DH and then he's a reliever for an inning and then he goes and plays in right field or something like that, where he's like kind of all over the game. That'd be a lot of fun. And then you get him to pitch too, so you get a little bit of both. But I just don't know that it's worth it at this point when you know what you get from him just hitting every day.
I think that's where it comes down to. Is he put up 10 WAR last season, just DHing.
That's what I mean.
If you could even just plop his butt over in left field, I mean, he could put up 12 WAR or something. He could have one of those seasons, one of those best of all time seasons.
Yeah.
I think that's the big question: is when do they talk about moving him to the outfield, or would they entertain that ever? But yeah. All right. Tigers assistant GM. You may have seen that he resigned kind of out of nowhere, like a week into the season. And it turns out that there was an investigation for him sending lewd photos to female staffers. Now, this has not been confirmed yet, but that investigation is going on. And I think it just makes a little more sense of why somebody would retire or resign from that position. He's like 30-something. He's like 34 or 35 or something like that.
Why you got to send lewd photos? I mean, what are we doing here?
Always a weird move.
Yeah. There's like some compulsion. I think I don't know. I've never understood the lewd photo thing.
The dick pic. You can just say the dick pic, Nate. Sam Minzen is by his name, by the way. I didn't have that written down, but Sam Minzen. And the good news is, baseball teams, he's on the market. So,
wow, great. And he fit in with a lot of teams, I bet. Yeah. All right. Well, sucks to suck, guy. Allegedly.
Sucks to suck. And then last thing I wanted to talk about is that The Clubhouse is out on Netflix. The Netflix documentary about the Red Sox last year with apparently great access. I think I've talked about it on this show. I'm really into Full Swing, the Netflix golf documentary. I haven't yet to watch The Clubhouse, but we're going to, and I'm very excited about it. And it's already getting some headlines about Jarren Duran and some other things that have been going on. I'm not going to talk about it too much until I watch it, but I've been waiting for this for a while and very excited to watch.
Yeah. I've also seen some of those headlines. I've not watched The Swing. Not a golf guy.
Full Swing.
But
I will say, I don't know if you would like it, Nate, because you are the way that you are. But I would say if you are not even a golf fan, if you're just like a sports person, which you probably are, listening to the show, Full Swing is really good.
I'm a sporto. What do you mean?
Okay. Yeah, but you're like the way that you are, man. Bad. You're bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch The Clubhouse. It sounds cool.
Yeah.
We more access to players. Give us more.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and the Reds, they kind of got a motley crew over there. They're kind of fun.
Yeah. Stupid Red
Sox.
All
right, that's all I got for league news.
Stupid, sexy Red Sox. All right, let's wrap up this episode. We're gonna play a little game. We've played this a few times. I call it, what year is it? So here's how this game works.
Wow.
I was thinking about I always find it interesting to when you look at a team, like you'll see those stats were like, 19 of them were homegrown, 4 of them were traded for, 6 through free. I always think those are really interesting just to see like how a team is put together. So I started thinking about like, when did the team acquire some of the players on our team? So I'm going to say a player, and you have to guess what year the Cardinals acquired them. And
I'm going to be really bad at
so
this.
I was going to say at the beginning, I think this is going to be tough. I don't know how many of these you'll get. Some of them are easier than others, but I do think this is pretty tough. But so it'll be what year the Cardinals acquired them, and then I've got a little more information about as we go through them. So okay, let's start with the leadoff man, Lars Nootbaar. What year did the Cardinals acquire Lars Nootbaar?
He was drafted. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
He was drafted. I think he was a college player, if memory serves. He's like, 26 now? So I'm going to guess he was drafted in 2019.
You are so close. He was drafted in the 8th round in 2018.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just trying to math that one back a little bit. How old is he? What?
Yeah, it's a good strategy. I think that's going to be your best bet on this sort of thing. All right. How about Jordan Walker?
Jordan Walker was 2020, right?
That is
That was a
correct.
great draft.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
a first round pick in 2020.
Yep.
He's not on the list, so I'll give you this one. Mason Wynn was their second round pick in 2020. So it went Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn, back to back. Pretty good draft.
Pretty good.
Okay, here's an interesting one. Ivan Herrera.
Ivan Herrera. Oh, I know that he's the longest tenured Cardinal. They were just talking about this on the broadcast. I believe he was signed when he was 16. So obviously he predates Newt, who was signed in 2018. But he's young. I'm gonna say. So my guess is either 2016 or 2017. I'm going to guess 2016.
You got it. He was an
Let's
international
go.
free agent, signed in July of 2016.
Yeah, he's a young man, but he's been here for a while.
Yes. All right. How about Andre Palante?
Palante, I believe, went to school. What is he? He's also like 26. So it makes me think he was drafted at the same time as Newt, or maybe the year after Newt. I'm gonna go 2019 for Palante.
You got it. He was drafted
Right.
in the fourth round, 125th overall of the 2019 draft.
Nice.
Just
Decent value for that pick.
yeah, just a couple more for you. How about Brendan Donovan?
Ooh, Brendan Donovan. He's a little older. I believe he also went to school. So that puts him at, I don't know, probably like 16, 17. Maybe earlier than that. No, that would make him. No, I'm going to say 2017.
You're close. He was also drafted in the same draft as Newt. And talk about value. He was in the seventh round of the 2018 draft. So the Cardinals got Donovan in the seventh and Newt in the eighth of the 2018 draft.
It's pretty good back-to-back rounds for that late. That's
Right.
pretty impressive. The fact that they're even on the major league team is impressive.
Yeah, in many games, you're 1-2 or you're 1-3 hitter coming out of the seventh and eighth rounds of a draft 5 years ago. So pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Got one last one for you. Ryan Helsley.
Oh, I have no idea. Helsley. He's God, I don't know. He's around that same age. Guess he's a little older. I assume he went to school. I don't really know anything about him. Oh, brother. I'm going to say 2018?
No, so you said Herrera is the longest tenured, maybe from a position player standpoint, because Ryan Helsley.
Oh, that must be what it was. Yeah.
Because Ryan Helsley was drafted in 2015.
Oh, yeah. I would have never. I guess I should have because he's older.
He's
than
older. He's about
everyone else we just talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, whiffed on that. I screwed myself. I think I blame the broadcast.
Sure. We always blame the broadcast. He was drafted in the fifth round of the 2015 draft.
It's a good get too.
Yeah. So there you go. That's gonna do it. I left off like a bunch of the big Arenado trades and stuff like that.
Sure,
I thought these were pretty interesting, kind of late round draft picks, except for Jordan Walker. So, but yeah, you got 3 of the 7. So pretty good.
Damn. I guess.
I mean, I
it felt better than 3 out of
Yeah.
7, but whatever.
it wouldn't have surprised me if you got like 1 or 2, I guess.
Yeah.
But just doing that.
Thanks.
Just do. Well, it's hard to think about when guys got drafted, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah, it is.
But I just listed some of the key players from this year's team, and they're all doing well. And they all came from later round draft picks. And not all of them, but a lot of them. So, I don't know. Maybe a little shout out to the Cardinal development system to some degree there. All right. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you, everybody, as always, for listening. Tough week of baseball ahead, but hopefully we'll come out the other side with some more positives. Going to be an interesting season. I think we know that for sure. So thank you all for listening. Talkingaboutbirds.com, links to everything. And we'll be back next week as always. And until next week, go Cardinals.
Let's go Pozo.
Gozo Pozo.
No. Gozo Pozo. Papo Gijo.